Hello, friends from the comic world. My name is Hector,
And my name is G.
and we're here to talk to you about the collected editions and graphic novels that are releasing in November 2024. Now, if you don't know, G and I work for Penguin Random House, and we manage sales to comic book stores around the world. So, titles that we talk about in these videos are from the publishers that we represent into those markets. Also note that we're on social media, so you can find us aside from YouTube on X Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find us at PRH International Comics. So if you haven't watched these videos before, the way we do these is G and I will go over a few our favorite picks for this month, and then we'll walk you through a few slides of some highlighted titles that we don't want you to miss. And then we'll leave you with the rest of the list of everything else that is going to be published and we're going to be distributing for the month of November. That goes on sale in the month of November, I should say. So that's it. Without further ado, let's get going with the first pick. I think it's
Yep.
yours.
And the first one is mine. This is Absolute Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Gerards. I am such a huge fan of the Absolute format to the point where I have this very same title in trade paperback and hardcover, but I need to have it in Absolute Edition. So this is Scott Free, Greatest Escape Artist. He time and time again thwarts the dark side forces from invading Earth and New Genesis. He's a celebrity. People know him from his performances.
Yeah.
But beneath the fame, his perfect marriage, his seemingly perfect life, something is like wrong and eating away from him. And he is questioning, can he pull the most ultimate trick as an escape artist? Can he escape death itself? So this is from Eisner Award winning Tom King and Mitch Jards, as I mentioned. This one I think really does benefit for the absolute format, mostly because if you have read this, you know that it really makes use of the nine panel grid format, which if you're looking at it in a like a standard like trade paperback, for instance, it's kind of tiny. So having a larger format, I think, as for me, I would
Yeah.
like to see this in a larger just to see that in on a larger page. And so this will collect this limited series, Mr. Miracle issue number 1 to 12. It'll include like original script pages, which is really cool to see any developmental art as an extra, commentaries from the creative team, and we have this exclusive new cover that's different. This is something that you don't want to miss out on, especially if you're a collector for something as great of a story as this. It really messes with your mind.
Yeah.
You don't know what's real anymore, what is reality, what isn't reality, what exists, what doesn't exist. Things get blurred. Brilliant work from this creative team. So yes, had to be my pick for
Yeah.
the
I
November
I
on sale.
think I think one of the first things I knew or I learned about G when we met is that she loves this story. I think of when every time I see Mr. Miracle, I think about how G had mentioned it probably very early on
I
when we
mention it a
met for
lot.
the first time a few years ago. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
And I
definitely.
remember exactly when and where I read this because
Yeah.
I was flying, I was on a trip to Arizona and then I was reading it on the way back. I was in the airport, waiting for like the train to get back home. This is what, like, I just remember it clearly reading this and where I was reading this. That's
Yeah.
how much this
Cool.
has, I love it so
Impacted
much.
you. Yeah,
Yeah, and it
yeah,
impacted me
yeah.
so much.
It's
So yeah.
bookmarked in your memory already. That's
Hmm.
awesome. All right. So next is one of my picks. This is Black Sad. They all fall down. Sorry, part two. This is by Juan Diaz Canales and Juanjo Guarnido, and this is Eisner Award winning because it's just won an award. It's not the first one that they've won for Black Sad, but this year they won an Eisner Award. And if you don't know about both Juan and Juanjo are Spanish and from Spain, and they obviously this is done originally in Spanish. And you have the name of the translators somewhere in here. Sorry, I want to give them credit too. Diana Schultz, and Brandon Kander. This concludes, obviously, it's part two, and it concludes the story from part one. This was published, this part two was published last year in Spain, and now we're finally having it in English. I have recently become a huge fan of Black Sad. It's this world where, you know, anthropo, I can't say the word, anthropo, you know what I mean, people, animals that look like people live in the story, and you have all kinds of creatures. And Black Sad is this panther, Black Panther, and he's a detective, and it's in this sort of 1930s, 1940s world. Sort of looks the city. It's like Chicago or New York of that era, with gangsters and crime, but also he's a private detective, so it's a very pulp fiction type detective stories that you follow. And it's extremely well written, and it's very good. They're very good. Sorry, because there's several. There's been several volumes of this and so many stories. Very good pulp fiction detective stories. So if you like that kind of thing, you're gonna love this. And then the art, it's extremely beautiful. It has not just the fantastical part of the animal and people, and characters, but also which are very well done. And as you can see from this cover, beautiful, even to the design of the clothing and everything. But also the backgrounds are so beautiful, and the way that Juan Guarnido has such a great ability to do perspectives in a way that you get a different views from the city and the different locations that he draws. So aside from doing beautiful illustration of the characters, I really really love the way he does the landscapes. And I I hope to meet him. He's going to be in New York Comic Con, which I'm going, so I hope to meet him there. He also, I want to mention that up in December, with the release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #5, IDW has a 1 in 100 cover by uh Juanjo Guarnido also, which is a very very cool cover. You should check it out, with the turtles just kind of running and jumping on top of a bridge, across the bridge, from New York. So that's all I can say. And I'm not going to tell you too much. I'm not going to tell you about the story. I think you should read all of the Black Sad titles. But this one, it seems a little bit more epic, especially because it has a part two. This one, which I haven't read, I still have to read number two, but it's very, very good. Very, very cool. Yes.
All right. Next up we have Suitor Armor. It's exactly what you think it is based on the
Yeah.
title here. So this we'll have in hardcover and in trade paperback from 10 Speed. So basically, humans and fairies are at war, and we have a character named Lucia, who is dedicated to help Lady Kersey on her upcoming wedding with this king. And so she accompanies Lady Kersey on this like royal tournament which calls together like the kingdom's brave knights for a competition of strength and wit. And there's this like magically animated suit of armor. Like that's all it is, just a suit of armor, nobody inside, just a suit of armor. I am stressing this for a reason. Um, and it's brought to life by this court mage, which like he uses this like complicated, or they use this complicated enchanted spell to bring this suit of armor to life. And it enters the ring, challenges the winning knight, and Lucia, she's like, "Wow, I am attracted to this suit of armor. Such mysterious charm, such strength, such
Yeah.
skill." And she lovingly gives it a name called Modius. So bonded by this mutual, like she's bonded because like the suit of armor, like no one except we're both outsiders. So she's like,
Mhm.
we have something in common because I'm an outsider too. Because she has this like stark, dangerous secret, and it's a secret about her identity that she does not want anyone to know because she is a fairy, and fairies are enemies to the human kingdom, again because they're at war. So she fears being exposed by the human kingdom, and like she in some way she still is also desperately trying to know more about herself, especially like with the situation that's happening in the story. There's like a winged visitor that infiltrates the castle walls for reasons that no one really knows. It's a mystery that she's particularly interested in. So, what this includes, volume one, is episodes 1 to 17 of the very successful webtoon comic, and it also includes some like behind the scenes content and like bonus storyline that is actually exclusive to the book. So if you want that, this is what you would have to pick up to take a look at, basically take a look at it. So really weird, but also very intriguing story. But
Yeah, but
yeah.
I do want to add that I at first as when I thought I heard about this story and I was able to read a couple of chapters and all that. It gives me a lot of the vibes for that trope of uh romance between a person and a robot or an android or AI or and it has that feeling of that it happens because of the person who is the human or the in this case it's a fairy but it's human, you know what I mean? They are misunderstood by everybody else except
Mhm.
they only find connection with this inanimate object or
Mhm.
animated object in this case. Yeah.
Mhm.
Very good. And next up is Joe the Barbarian. This is a new edition. This is part of the Black label from DC, and this is written by Grant Morrison and illustrated by Sean Murphy. And I love this title, and it's so good. And I'm glad that they're doing a new edition for this. So you have Joe, who is an 11-year-old boy, and he can't fit in high school. He is being bullied. His dad died overseas in the Iraq War, and he also lives with type 1 diabetes. So he's having a bad time, a hard time. And then one fateful day, his condition causes him to believe he has entered a vivid fantasy world in which he's the lost savior and a fantastic land based on layout and contents of his home. So he sees like his home turning into this sort of fantastical world, and he is the savior. Now he's you know trying to get out of his bedroom, out of his house, and figure out what's going on. But it becomes in this huge adventure of survival for him and trying to battle all these different things that show up. Like there's this like hellhounds and different things that show up. But also he he's trying to figure out, wait, is this real, or is this just that I'm deprived of insulin at the moment, and it's a delirium, what it is, or is really something much bigger happening here? It's a very beautiful story. It's very cool, lots of action, lots of very well written, and the illustrations, I mean, well written. It's Grant Morrison, of course, and then the illustrations, the great Sean Murphy, who you should know, not just as a author, but as an amazing illustrator too. He recently did, he's been doing the Murphy verse, which is like the absolute Batman, absolute, not absolute, sorry, white. I keep getting the confused. The White Knight and the Curse of the White Knight and Batman White Knight and all that. But his art is, I mean, he's another both of these are veterans of the industry, and they come together to this story, which I love. That is so different from everything else that DC has to offer, but it's also under the DC label, so it's very much adult in theme, um, but it's very well written, and I love the world that is built with this too. Like I said, this is one of my recent favorites. I highly, highly recommend it. Yes.
All right. And then next up we have um, Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko, Volume 1, Fears and Hate. So this one caused a storm when it came out in single issues, and it's because it's so, I think it's for people like it's like a good combination of like having your favorite like Western
Yeah.
superheroes, but then you have the very like manga style type of art, but then you have this character, um, Ishiki, who's like a teenage girl, like doing normal teenage girl things in Japan and seeing how her normal life is complicated by what she had to go to and experience that going to school and hanging out with her friends. There is strife there, and there's also not just in her own social bubble, but there is external social or like political strife with the events happening after Ultimate Invasion. So this is like what's interesting is you have like urban legends that you typically see in like Japanese legends bringing to life. Unusual
Yeah.
new powers start coming into play. We have this main character. We have armor, May Storm, brand new Ultimate X-Men, and the likes that you haven't seen before. And I think it's such an interesting way that this was done. So I myself very interested in picking up. I am picking up the single issues, but I obviously want to pick up the trade paperback as well. When I started reading it, it reminded me so much of Monster Calls by Patrick Ness or I Kill
Yeah.
Giants because it
Yeah.
has that
Yeah.
like main character who is dealing with some inner monsters in a way. So
Mhm.
like how that is like being illustrated just reminds me of those other two works too. So if you are fans of those, this is something that you would definitely be like you should pick this up. So yes, my pick
Yes.
for
And of course,
November.
also fans of Peach Momoko, for sure.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, that's
Yeah,
no
of course.
question.
Yeah, it's a given. It's a given. Yeah, and next up, we continue with Lumine by Emma Krogel. This is volume 2. This is from Webtoon Unscrolled, which PRH, we just recently took over distribution of Wattpad and Webtoon Unscrolled. And this title really caught my eye. And I started reading the Webtoon, and I'm hooked now. This is such a great fantasy, but also one of those stories about friendship, and friendship that you don't expect, like opposites or people who are not necessarily get along in the beginning, but they become very, very close with time and with situations. So I'm going to tell you the story of the beginning of this, not of what the volume two entails, but it's there's this boy who's a werewolf uh, who is actually uh, working as a bodyguard, but he gets kicked out because he's terrible at it. He's just like at one point he says he tripped on a carpet and pushed his master down the stairs, ends up in the hospital and all that. And he also gets ridiculed and bullied by the other people in the place that he lives. So and then I should mention first, this is a world where witches and werewolves coexist and live together, and humans, and they'll like live side by side. So this little werewolf boy, he like in human form, he can turn into a werewolf. Uh, he is kicked out. He doesn't get paid for his last check, so he's sleeping outside, and he's woken up suddenly by this other boy who has like a very deadpan, serious look on himself. It's like, I can you guide me to the train station. I got lost. I'm visiting here, the city with my dad. I got lost, but I know the car is by the train station. Sure, I'll guide you there. And then he gets lost because he really doesn't know his way, ends up in an alley. And this guy with two werewolves kind of start trying to mug them, like get the money from them. And the little boy turns into a little werewolf, and a tiny little werewolf, and but attacks him and tries to defend, even though against all odds, defends the other boy, which by the way, does nothing. He's just like, oh, do whatever you want. I just met the guy, kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, the other boys, the who ends up, you find out that it's a witch. His dad shows up and saves the day, and he's also a witch. And things happen that and you find out that dad was actually looking for him, and he was trying to get to him before he got kicked out of his last job because he wants to hire him to uh be his son's bodyguard. And I right off the bat you get all these situations where you can see that the little werewolf is very brave, but it's not very skillful at times, but he's willing to fight when he needs to and defend when he needs to. So he has a lot of heart. It's just like he's clumsy and he's not very good socializing. And the other one is just like, I don't care. He doesn't care about anybody. So you kind of, with this, you see where we're going with the story, and sort of you put these two together. They don't really match, but somehow throughout the story, they're gonna start getting closer and closer, and situations are gonna happen when they're gonna push them together, and a friendship's gonna build there. Very beautifully illustrated. I should mention that Emma Krogel is located in Finland, and this webtoon is huge on the platform, but also obviously in her home Finland and around Europe, it's huge. But this is a very, very good reading, even though it seems like the story is more for juvenile readers. It is actually a very deep story, and it's very easy to follow, but also very intriguing, and it keeps you wanting more. Like I said, I started reading it and I'm hooked, and I can't wait to get my hands on the physical copies because I definitely want to see it on paper. It's the kind of story too. The illustrations are so beautiful. You really want to see them on paper. Nothing against digital, but you kind of want to have both. So, yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites for the month of November. I'm looking forward to volume two also being out on paper.
Okay, and then continuing on with some highlights. So I'll start off
Yep.
with again, I love these absolute editions. We have Absolute Justice, Alex Ross, All in Line, Saul Steinberg. We have Amazing Spider-Man, Blood Hunt, Justina Ireland, and then we have Assassin's Apprentice Volume 2 with Jodie Hauser.
Hmm. And we continue with Backflash by Matt Johnson, The Batman, First Night by Dan Jurgens, The Complete Harrow County by Colin Bunn. I love that cover, by the way. And
Good one.
Cyberpunk 2077, Omnibus Volume 1, Bartos Stibor, and Colin Bunn.
You're gonna see me double dipping a lot because like I have the I have the hardcovers for Harrow County, but that looks really cool.
Yeah, that is extremely cool.
And then I just looked in all of the DC finest because this is such an interesting line. So we have Batman Year One and Two, Justice League of America, The Bridge Between Earths, Superman the First Superhero, The Flash, The Human Thunderbolt, and Wonder Woman Origins and Omens. Just really quickly, these are like really large, nice large size paperbacks starting at 34.99. It's really in it's really meant to sort of like spotlight in demand period genres and in this example characters. If you're like a completionist or like if you like a particular superhero character, you can like the concept here is pick up one of the characters. In the future you could pick
Yeah,
up multiple iterations of that character shown throughout DC history, which is really cool and nice. So highly recommend checking these out.
and there'll be a lot more.
Mhm.
There'll be
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, a lot
the
more than
plan.
that. Yeah.
We continue with Deadpool by Collie Sigler. This volume one, Bloodband, like I said, Collie Sigler. And then Death of Wolverine Omnibus by Alex Ross, the cover, but this is by Paul Cornell. And then we have Ghostbusters volume one, Back in Town. I love this miniseries, by the way. David M. Boer. And Greatest Secrets by Anand Hirsch and Tess Stone. And Gonna Rig. I have so many issues with this title every time. Gunner Craig Court, Volume 1 by Thomas Tom Seidel.
Continue, we have a Jack Pot Black Cat. There we
It's
go.
contagious. It's contagious. Uh,
Celeste
go ahead.
Bronfman. We have The Last Kids on Earth, graphic novel. Of course, very popular and glad that we're getting graphic novel versions of these. The Legend of Luther Arkwright, Brian Talbot, Master Priest, Brian Michael Bendis, and Midnight Suns, Blood Hunts, Brian Hill.
And we continue with Money by Kurt Pyers and Monsters Are My Business by Cullen Bunn. And next is My Little Pony Kimbuki Roller Derby by Casey Gilly, Amy Chase, Natalie Hayes, and Kate Sharon. And then we also have here a box set for three of the titles from Paws, Best Friends Forever. Best Friends Forever, I should say correctly. Box set. And like I said, it's books one, two, three. This is by Nathan Fairbairn.
All right, continuing on, Primer, Clashing Colors by Thomas Krajewski. There we go. And then we have Punisher Max by Aaron and Dylan Omnibus. This is a Dave Johnson cover new printing for this. Robin, Son of Batman by Patrick Gleason, the deluxe edition. And we have by Jason Aaron, the well-lauded Scalped Omnibus Volume 1.
Yeah. And then we have Sonic the Hedgehog, Fang the Hunter by Ian Flynn, Thomas Rothenberger, and Mauro Fonseca. And then we have Star Trek, Sons of Star Trek by Morgan Hampton, Angel Hernandez. And then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Black, White, and Green by Dave Baker, Paulina Gauchino. I should say it's a bunch of creators because these are, collects, I think it's four different issues that were anthologies themselves of different stories. And last on this slide is X-Men 97, Great Expectations by Steve Fox.
Mhm.
And that's it for the highlights for what we wanted to highlight. But like we said at the beginning, we're going to leave you with the rest of the list for November of this year. We hope you liked this video and you enjoyed what we presented to you. And make sure to go to our social media, like I said, to X, Twitter, to Instagram, to Facebook, and of course here on YouTube. And you can subscribe, like, and leave us some comments. Let us know what you're excited for. And I should have mentioned at the beginning, they might have been, I think there was a couple of titles, and there will be in the rest of the presentation that we have presented before and for previous months, but that's due to sometimes delays in production and things like that. It's just part of the nature of the book business. So, with that, I think I said everything. I thank you and I hope you come back and watch more. Bye.
Bye.